Sure, I see people signing in there. Great. There's Tristan and Sadie. Sophie and Sam Like, I see. Folks, please sign in the chat box so we know you're here and who you are with us. Use your name so we know who you are. Thank you very much. We'll be starting in just a moment, so just hang tight. We'll get rolling while everybody joins us. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Come on in. Sign in the chat box. We're going to use the chat box today for communications. You'll be able to hear and see me, but I won't be able to hear and see you. So if you want to comment, we'll use the chat box. I'll have some questions for you. We'll have some polls also. But for the questions, please use the chat box to respond, and I'll read your responses from the chat box. For those of you that aren't joining us live today, you can still do these activities, and you'll understand what's happening from the chat as I repeat the comments that are in the chat box. So we're just waiting for everybody to sign, and we'll take another couple of minutes just to get everybody on board. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming this afternoon. I see Bryn is here. I see Ben's here. I see Mason is in the chat box. Anybody else in the chat box? Please let me know. Hi, Jacob from Berwyn. Sharvie is here. Neiman is here. Aiden's here. Elias, hi. John is here. As you sign in, folks, please put your name in the chat box so we can see you're here. We'll give it one more minute just to make sure we get everybody in. Squeeze in. Come on, squeeze in there. We'll be using the chat box for our communication today. You'll be able to see and hear me, but I won't be able to see and hear you. But your responses, I really want your responses. So put them in the chat box and I'll read them out as they come in. We'll need your interaction today. Jacqueline and Sal are here. Eloise and Jonathan, I see. Nicholas from Delaware. Andrew, Nolan, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. Just another little bit for everybody else to get in. Alyssa, AJ, and Anthony. Delia, I see you there. Thanks a lot for joining us. In the back room working with me today is Lahiri. She's going to be back there. She's going to be helping with the questions and the polls and everything else. So we'll give a shout out to Lahiri. Super. All right. Great. We got everybody here. How are we doing, Lahiri? We ready to roll? Super. Okay, great. Well, just one more shout out to everybody else that's going to join on board. Be sure to put your name in the chat box. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Pitts. I'm the Chief Astronomer at the Franklin Institute, and I want to welcome you to our program this afternoon, our GSK Electrical Engineer Research Team. All of you that have been doing this activity as learning how electrical engineers go about what their work is, so glad to have you aboard. So we have a lot of stuff happening today, and you're going to have a big role in it. And I'm going to be looking to you to find out what you've been doing. The first thing we're going to do, though, is don't mind if I share my screen here, I hope. I'm going to jump out of this, and I'm going to go right over to here because we have this program that goes with this. So here we are. It's our Electrical Engineer Research Team meeting, and I'm glad you are all here. If you're coming aboard late, don't forget to sign in, put your name in the chat box. We want to know who you are. Here's how we're going to use the chat box. The chat box is for science today. So please keep your comments focused on our activity. Thank you very much. And you can see me and you can hear me, but I can't see you or hear you. We're going to use the chat box for our communication. So when I ask questions, you have comments, please throw them into the chat box and I'll be able to read your comments from there. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. Okay. So as part of this research team, you tried out being an electrical engineer, and we have folks doing this all over the place. Let me just give you a quick look at where we have folks doing this. Look at all these dots all over the United States. We have folks doing these activities all over the country, and each one of those dots represents where we have teams of electrical engineers doing the same kinds of things. So you're not alone. A lot of people are trying to figure out some solutions to the electrical engineer challenge you had, okay? We're going to find out about that channel in just a few minutes. Hi, Denise. There's Joshua and Julia. Gavin Zhu is here. Super. Glad everybody can be here. All right. So, like I said, as part of the research team, you tried out being an electrical engineer, somebody who solved problems that involve electricity. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this thing called the poll. We're going to put up a poll, and the poll is going to ask you a question, and I want you to vote on the poll. And the way it works is, as you put in your responses to the poll, what happens is we'll be able to see how many people responded and what your responses were. Okay, so we'll see the poll question in just a moment. And here it is. Did being an electrical engineer, did the electrical engineer activity make you more interested in being a scientist one day for your job? Think about it. The activity that you did that make you feel like you might want to be an electrical engineer for a job? Okay, so now you see what your options are. It's multiple choice. You can answer a lot. You can answer a little bit. You can answer not at all. Go ahead and throw your responses in there and we'll tally them up and we'll see. Caitlin says, yay. Okay, Caitlin, great. So let's see who else has a response here to this. Doing this activity, how did that work for you? Delia says it encouraged her a lot. It was so fascinating. That's great. Yeah, put your answers in the chat. You can answer in the chat with a lot, a little bit, a not at all. So you can answer in both places. Go ahead, throw your answers up there. We'll see what we have. I see Parvati says a lot. Crystal says a little bit. Bryn says, yes, I've always been interested in being a scientist. Yeah, sure. We got a lot of responses here. A lot, a little bit, a whole lot. I see, right. Elias says, yes, because I like using the buzzer. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Oh, I see somebody said not really. Sure, and Nancy said not really. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. We just want to expose you to it and see how it goes and see what you thought. Okay, so let's go on now because we've gotten a little bit to see about how people feel about this. But let's just go over the activity really quickly. Now, let me reset the story for you. Now, if you recall, the challenge for us as electrical engineers working out a problem is that a nearby hospital uses a button system with the patients to call the nurse's station for attention for whatever that patient might need. And what they've been finding is that they need to make this button work a little bit better for the patient. It doesn't seem to work as well as it could. So the challenge has been, can we improve upon the button that's there to figure out a different way that makes it work a lot easier so that the patient won't have to do very much work, and also so that it works all the time, and so that it works consistently. So that's the engineering challenge. Can we make a buzzer system that works out a lot better? Okay? All right, great. Now you had all the parts and pieces that you needed for this. You had wire, you had batteries, you had some cardboard paper, you had some tape that you could use, and all of this worked together to make, supposedly, hopefully, to make the buzzer work. Okay? All right, great. So now, first we did try, let's find out what you did in your research. Okay? So what I want you to do is, I want you to get out your notebooks. Make sure you have your notebooks ready because we want to go over what you did in the notebooks. So the first thing we did was we tried to build a model of the hospital's buzzer. Okay, so now when you tried to build the model of the hospital's buzzer, what were some of the parts that didn't work? What were some of the parts that didn't work so well? Why don't you put your answers in the chat? What were some of the parts of the buzzer that didn't work out so well? Crystal says the cardboard. Oh, and by the way, if you don't have your notebooks handy, don't worry about that. You didn't get a chance to fill it out. You can do it now. Don't worry about it. Oh, I see. Arnav says the wires. Maybe the wires didn't work. I see somebody says some of the wires, the connector making the sound. The wire kept unattaching. Oh, yeah, okay. the buzzer, the connecting part. Michael says there were too many steps grabbing the one part and bringing it to the other. Christina says the wires didn't connect well the first time I tried to do it. The paper fasteners. I see. Della says it kept opening the circuit when I didn't want to. Okay. Elizabeth said the wire wouldn't stay in place. So these are some of the, let's see if there are any other problems you may have had with this. So how many people were challenged by the wires? The wires didn't work so well. Give me a big yes if you had problems with the wires. Okay, we see some yes. Okay. All right, great. Okay, good. Okay, now let's check on those paper fasteners. Let's check on the paper fasteners. If you had a challenging time with the paper fastener, give me a big yes on that or a no. Give me a yes or a no if it worked or didn't work for you. Some people agree, some people disagree. Didn't work for some, worked a little bit. Crystal says yes, right. Yes, with the paper fastener. They actually were pretty easy. One person says, Rajan says most of it worked. Okay, all right, great. Now, let's go on to the next piece of this. How did the tape work out for you? Did you find that the tape helped with this? How did that work out for you? We put the wire between the paper fastener pieces. Yeah, the tape helped. It worked, but the sound could have been more constant. It would only work sometimes. Yes, the tape worked well, I see. Veronica says that. Yes, the tape helped. Okay, great. All right, that's good. Now, let's go on to the buzzer. How did the buzzer work out for you? How did the buzzer work out for you? If it worked well, say yes. If it didn't work well for you, say no. How about the buzzer? So-so. I see somebody says the buzzer was only so-so. But for the most part, I see it work. Yes. Francesco says it worked pretty well. Sam and Sophie said it was very fun. Parvati says, yes, the buzzer worked well. Delia says sometimes it would turn off, but in the end, it was working great. Kajal says, I didn't finish my project. That's okay. You have time to work on that, Kajal. You can keep working on that. Okay, great. So it seems as if everybody's had some experience with this, trying to see if you could get it to work okay. All right, so I'm just going to go back to my slides here, and I'm going to move ahead a little bit for our next piece. So now what you can see here is here's an electrical engineer actually doing some of the work that electrical engineers do, just like you did. And that is trying to figure out how you can solve a problem with the equipment you have at hand. And it looks like this electrical engineer is working with wires, maybe a buzzer too, but the idea is to try to figure out what the problem is and see how you can improve upon the design that's already there. So that's what we're seeing here. Now, if we look at the buzzer circuit, here's what we were trying to do. There's the hospital buzzer circuit there. You can see on the left, right there. We have a patient right here that could use it. And here's what your circuit might have looked like right over here, where you have the contacts here, you have the buzzer up here, and the tape to hold things together. That looks like that might be the way you have yours set up. And I think I can tell, but I'm going to ask the question. How many of you found that it took you a number of tries to get it to work? How many of you found it took you a few tries to get it to work? Yeah, right. Yeah, I see Christina and Aubrey said it took some time. Christy Latimer says it took some time. Jacqueline says it took some time. Hannah, definitely me, she says. Okay, great. Sharvie says yes. Aaron says 2 or 3 times. Sam and Sophie said they had some trouble. Yeah, Gavin says it worked okay for him. I see 2 times. Well, as you can see from the slide here, engineers try again and again to see if they can get something to work. But Manya says something really important. Manya says, it took a few times because I had more ideas and some didn't work. How many of you tried a different idea to see if it might work? Say I did if you tried a different idea to see if it worked. Great. That's fabulous. Look how many people tried a different way to see if it worked. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Okay. And as I can tell from before, for some of you, it may have worked. For some of you, it didn't work. Uh-huh. And she says, meh. Jacob says, I just tweaked my original idea. Okay, cool. Great. This is all part of engineering where you try different ways to see if you can figure out how to get something to work for you. And you try to come up with what you might call the optimum result, the optimum solution that solves all of the problems that were originally presented. I see Christina says the second time it worked. Depresha says it took 3 times to get it to work. Well, that's okay, because you know what? If you try it a number of times and it doesn't work, you're just finding ways that you're just eliminating ways that don't work and getting closer to the way to make it work. And engineers do this over and over and over again, right? So that's good. I'm glad that's worked out for you and you've had the opportunity to do it that way. Okay, so let's just blast on. And I see Noah and Josh. They say they're still trying new ideas. Yeah, excellent. That's very good. Okay, so right here on the screen, you can see an engineer, Zaida Hernandez-Irisson. And Zaida is a really fabulous engineer. She designs machines that are used to build airplane parts. Can you believe it? She designs machines that are made to build airplane parts. She moved to the United States from Mexico when she was 11, and she didn't even speak any English when she came here. But through persistence and hard work, she learned a new language, English, and she got through school. I'm sure it took a lot of work to make that happen, but she got through school, and she's now an engineer who builds machines that make parts for airplanes. That's pretty sophisticated work, but you know what? I'm sure she was really excited about it and really interested to do it, probably like you might have been as you were working at this. Can you imagine yourself going from just making a buzzer to doing something else like designing parts, designing machines that make parts for airplanes? Or even more than that, there's so many other things you can do as an engineer. And you can see how Zaida looks so excited and happy here. I think a lot of people who are interested in this might be excited and happy to do this too. So what she does now is Zaida mentors girls to build robots. And she does that to get them interested in engineering. And that's a really great way to pursue an interest in engineering, is to work with robots, to design and build robots. There's so many things in our world today that require engineering to make them work better. So here, let me ask you another question about engineering, your project, and what you did and how you did this at home. So, oh, by the way, before we go a little bit further, let me just say this. If you want to learn more about Zaida Hernandez-Irisson, you can watch the video of her. You'll see it in the chat over here. You'll see in the chat, there's the link, the URL link to a YouTube video about her. I really encourage you to check that out because you can learn her full story and you can find out more about how she got to where she is. Rajan asked the question, is software engineering a type of engineering? Sure, it is a type of engineering because you're trying to, again, find a solution to a problem, and you're going to do it over and over and over again until you find the optimum solution. So yes, that works out as engineering. That's great. Hey, we have a question from Xavier. Xavier says, I have a question about electrical engineers. Do electrical engineers work on wind turbines and other eco-friendly sources of electricity? How many of you out there think that electrical engineers might work on wind turbines or other eco-friendly sources of electricity? Do you think so? Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you do. Yeah, so many do. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely, they do. So Xavier, there's the answer to your question for you. And so, Sam and Sophia ask, can engineering not include electricity? Of course. There's civil engineering, there's mechanical engineering, there's chemical engineering. There are lots of different branches of engineering that don't involve electricity. Yeah, I can understand that, sure. I can see how you might not want to necessarily be connected to electricity. But also, let me ask you to think about this. Around your houses, around your house where you live, have you been able to find examples of the components that were part of your experiment? Have you been able to find other switches around the house? Have you been able to find other wires around the house? Have you been able to find other kinds of circuits around your house. Think about another circuit that you may have found in your house. Can you name one of those circuits by any chance? Can you name a circuit that you might have found around your house? Oh, I see. Lucas says my light switch. Connor says I have a lot of batteries. Bryn says charging wires, chargers, buttons. Yes, the switch, the computer. Sure, toys can be a circuit as well. My light switch and remote buttons, of course. The ceiling fan, Annika. Yep, that's right. My guitar amp, says Ben. Yes, there are circuits in a guitar amp. I think lamps are probably the most obvious ones. Jacqueline has an interesting one here. A potato hooked up to the buzzer instead of a battery. Wow, that's really getting far out there, but we'll take that, sure. Right, a lot of good ones in here, sure. So there are plenty of other circuits around your house, and you can imagine that engineers were involved in figuring out how to make those all work. Even in your phone, I see. Jen says phone, Vaishu says phone. Yeah, lots of great answers. Christina says, art can definitely be incorporated into engineering. I think I read that correctly. Let me see if I can catch that. Art can definitely be incorporated into engineering. Engineers need to think about design when inventing. Yep, that's true. Absolutely. No question about it at all. Okay, great. So I have another poll for you coming up here now. I have another poll for you coming up. Again, if you remember how the poll worked, you'll see the question. Please throw your answers into the chat for this next poll question that's coming up. And the poll question is, how did you think or act like a scientist when you were doing your electrical engineer activity at home? How did you think or act like a scientist when you were doing your activity at home? Did you observe? Did you test? Did you try again? Did you ask a question? Did you have an idea? Did you learn something new? And here's a really important one. Did you work together? I see some people had fun. Someone here, Aubrey, says, I didn't give up. Yay, Aubrey. That's a great one. I didn't give up. That's good. Delia says, I sort of worked together. Yeah, partnerships always help because you have more people contributing to the process of figuring out. Dana says, I kept going. Lucas says, I had fun. Parvati says, I worked together with my brother. Good for you. That's really great. So that's really fabulous. Yep. Annika said, I had fun. I worked together. Manya says, all of these things. Mira says her dad actually helped. That's pretty cool too. So when you're working, doing things like this, like a scientist, it involves observation. It involves testing. And you do have to go through it over and over and over to make things work. And you'll find yourself asking questions all the time. What else can I do to make things different? And look, here we have the results of the poll. Let's see. What I see as the leading answer that people had to this question was they tested things over and over again. Testing is really good. And you tried again. So testing and trying again over and over again. I see that some had ideas, you worked together. A lot of people had fun. That's good. So it looks like you're getting the hang of understanding how you work as a scientist when you're doing electrical engineering, even when you're creating a buzzer like this activity that you did at home. So here's my next poll question for you coming up. The next poll question for you coming up. Did the electrical engineer activity show you that you can do science? Did this activity actually show you that you can do science? Think about your answers to the last one. What do you say here? A lot, a little bit, or not at all? What do you think? Throw your answers in the chat, please. Ben says yes. Delia says a lot. Francesco says a lot too. Fabulous. Mason, I see. Hannah says a little bit. Kush says a lot. Yeah. I see. Great responses. Sure. So you're getting the hang of this. You're right down the track. Sam and Sophie says, I kind of already knew that. Yeah, that's okay. That's great. Dana says, so much. Bryn says, a lot. As always, maybe? Cool. Very good. And here are the results of the poll. And it turns out that a lot of you, 3/4 of you said yes. You learned, it helped you see that you could do science a lot. And then the rest of you said a little bit. So everybody seems to get it. Some folks, maybe not so much, but that's okay. It's all about just understanding what's out there. So now let's get on here. We're going to show you we did this already, of course, show you that you were a scientist, but here we go right over here. Let me just get this out of the way. I'm going to do a little, there we go, maintenance on my page here so I can see what's happening. Great. So there are plenty more engineering activities at the electrical engineering, at the Be an Engineer website. Trying to get my words straight here. Sure. So there are lots more engineering activities. You can see here, environmental engineering, electrical engineering, which you just did, structural engineering, which I didn't mention, and biomedical. 3 types of engineering I didn't even mention. And you can see that there are so many more of them. So if you just go to the website, scienceinthesummer.fi.edu/be-an-engineer, you can find lots more of these activities. So let me just remind the educators that are on the live stream to ask the poll questions to your group and upload the results. That'd be great. I think we've had an excellent time here. I want to thank everybody for all of your contributions, all of your responses, all of your answers. And also, thanks so much for all of the fabulous activity that you put together here and the work that you did to try to solve this issue of making a better buzzer for the patients. All of these steps are great steps that you can employ in lots of other projects, lots of these other engineering projects. And so try some of them out and see if they work for you. Okay, glad you could be with us. Let's give a big shout out to GSK for the program Science in the Summer. Thanks so much, GSK. We greatly appreciate it. And folks, I'm very glad you could be with us today. Let me just stop my screen share here. There we go. That's fabulous. That's just wonderful. So glad you could be here. If you have any last questions, please throw them into the chat. We'll get around to them. And we're glad you could be with us today. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks, and we'll see you on the next version of this program. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your summer and enjoy Science in the Summer with the GSK program. See ya.